Okay, that should be working. I'm gonna remove some of the filters on the audio. Nice. There we go. Okay, everything should be working all right. Okay, so today I'm gonna be building a Shiny app with Shiny RS with a little lib for Rust I've made to be able to interact with Shiny apps. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make a face detection app. I found this cool model from this library called Rust Face, which allows me to do this, right? So I think that's pretty cool. And I think this is exactly where something like Rust can shine. Because imagine like running this on a Raspberry Pi or like on a really small device and kind of like like have a webcam hooked up to it and have it take pictures every once in a while and be able to lively look at like I just think like there's some cool stuff we could do with this, and this is kind of like an example of where Rust can actually shine when building Shiny apps. So let's do it. I've already written some boilerplate. Let me go back again. Personal Shiny face app. So what have I done? I brought up the model. This is a binary with the model, and I've created this little lib with the actual lib.rs. Apparently I have it opened on another terminal. I do. Let me close that. Okay, let me close it again. There you go. Let me abort and let me open it again. So I built the code for actually running the model. It's a lot of copy paste from the example that's shown on the GitHub for the package. But it works. It just draws faces on an image, and so I think that's pretty easy to understand. I think there's no problem with that. So yeah, I've just made a public function for me to be able to run the model, and it takes in the path to an image as an argument. So that's pretty much all that I've done. So I'm going to be building the app basically from scratch, except for the face detection model, because I think that I had to do some experimenting and I didn't want to waste time on that on the video. So let's just get into it. I'm going to go into my main.rs. It's as it comes on the, how do you call that? on the default. It literally just says hello world. So I'm going to open my terminal and I'm going to follow the guide that I wrote on the Shiny RS GitHub. I think that's the best thing to do. So let me open the Shiny RS GitHub. There you go. Here it is. So I'm going to follow it pretty much step by step to show you how easy it is. So using the default server, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the default server for now. Later on, I might create a custom server, but for now, I'm going to do the default one. So there you go. I created already my cargo, my thing. So now I'm going to go into my cargo.toml so that I can add my dependencies. So I'm literally just going to copy paste this and put it on my dependencies. There you go. I also want to add face, which would be the path equals dot/face, which this is the little library I wrote for making the face detection. So that's the only difference from the GitHub. So there you go. I do this. Now if I do cargo build, it should build no problem. It should download the Shiny RS package. It should install Actix, and it should do everything it needs to do. So right there, it's updating crates.io, updating Git repository. It's bringing all the things that it needs to bring, and it's building. There you go. So we can continue. Here, the next session is about creating the UI. So for this example, I'm also going to build a UI in R. I think that's an important thing to mention because I really wanted to be known that this is just the backend, right? This Rust thingy is just the backend. So you can write your front end in whatever you want. You could write it in R with whatever packages you need in R. You could write it in Python with the PyShiny thing. You could write it in React. I recently saw a video by the Epsilon guys, I think, that used React to build a Shiny front end. Or you could write it like in pure HTML. That's all up to you. So I think that's one of the cool things, that you can just adapt the Shiny library to it. So here it shows some UI that I built in R. Here, what it takes, it's taking the HTML tools dependency so that it can actually work okay and like actually export the dependencies. So I'm gonna copy this, and it tells me to write it into index.r in my static folder. So I'm gonna create the folder mkdir static, right? That's where I'm gonna have my static content. And now I'm gonna open static index.r, and I'm just pasting it right there. Now I'm gonna modify this UI to make it like better. So face app, let's call it. I know face app is like another thing, but it doesn't really matter for this. And now let's actually build our UI. So let's have a fluid row, and inside that fluid row, let's do one thing. Let's include an action button. Just for now, like this is really rough, but it's just like to get the initial part working. So I'm gonna have an action button, and inside that action button, I'm gonna have run model, for example. So run model, right? And then after it runs the model, I want to have a UI output where it shows the image. So result, let's call it. That's it. That's all I want for now. An action button and a UI output. So now, after copying this and writing whatever I need, I'm gonna have to render my UI. In this case, since this is R, I'm gonna just run the script. So I'm gonna do R script static index.r. There you go. So now I have an index.html that's literally the rendered UI. So you can see here the button ID and the HTML output, but in pure HTML. Perfect. So now we have our UI thing out of the way. So now we're gonna have to write our server. So as the tutorial says, the server requires a couple of 3 functions and two constants. Those would be the initialize, update, and tick functions, and the heartbeat interval and the client output interval. Client timeout, sorry. So first I'm gonna bring my dependencies. So I'm gonna use this, right? Use ShinyRS. In this case, since I'm using the default Shiny server and the default Shiny session, I'm gonna bring those. Then I'm gonna bring from ActixWeb like the things that I need to build my HTTP server. And here's standard time duration is so that I can set a duration based on, how do you call that? Based on seconds, nanoseconds, milliseconds, etc. Okay, so let me redefine my, I'll write my main, let me just main function main and literally just do this so that it doesn't show those errors, right? So I'm gonna keep following my tutorial. This function, what it will be is that it will expose my front end, so my index.html. So let me copy that, paste it right here. So now I have my index function. What it will do it will expose my index.html file, which is what I want the user to get when it enters. And now we're gonna define our initialize, update, and tick functions. The initialize function is a function that runs whenever the server, well, not the server, when the session starts. So when the session starts, the initialize function will run, and everything it does, it will execute right when the session starts. It takes in a Shiny server and a Shiny session as arguments. So you can think of those as the input, output, and session in the traditional R sense. They're a little bit different. I will show kind of the use of it right here, but for now, that's kind of like how it would work. Okay. So I have initialize, update, and tick. Let me copy this. I'm getting a call. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm back. Just a small little interruption. So those are kind of like the basic functions. Also, the update function runs every time an input gets updated, and the tick function gets run every tick, so every heartbeat. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it right there, and I'm gonna like go through this, right? So we define our initialize, update, tick functions. I don't want anything inside them yet, but I want you to take a look at this. So the heartbeat interval in here, I'm doing duration from seconds. That means the tick will run every second. However, I could do from nanos, millis, micros, in case that's like the tick rate we want for our app. But in this case, 1 second is all right, works perfect. And the client timeout is after how many seconds do you want the client to time out if there's no heartbeat response. In this case, 10 seconds is enough for me, right? So after doing that, we're going to define a function that actually starts our session. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to literally copy it and paste it. So in this case, the name of this function is server. I could change the name. That doesn't really matter. And what it will do is that it will start a WebSocket session with our Shiny server, bringing in our initialize function, right? Our update function and our tick function. I could define this outside in a different module. Right here, I'm just doing a really simple one file app, so don't worry about it yet. Then I'm just gonna literally have to create my HTTP server. So I'm gonna literally copy this, and here you can see Tokyo, main flavor, current thread, so that I can like create an async session. And I'm gonna start my HTTP server. My services right here are gonna be /, so the main, the root of the URL will bring me to my index.html file. Here I'm bringing ActX files, which I will save all of my ActX files, all my library files, like the JavaScript dependencies that that kind of got rendered. I'm gonna put them in the /lib, and I'm gonna take static /lib. And right here, I'm putting show file listings, but I'm gonna disable that because I don't want that. Also, since in this case, I'm going to be working with images, I might create an image directory and expose it to a different resource path. So I'll do that in a second. But right now, the first thing I'm going to do is get this working initially, right? Right here, I'm binding the address to 0.0.0. I can bind this to 1.27.0.0.1 if I want it only on localhost, or on 0.0.0.0 if I'm going to expose it to the internet. For now, I'm going to set it on port 8000, not 8080, because I already have the 8080 working on something else. Run and await. There you go. So now I should be able to do cargo run, and it should run my app. So it's compiling, and now I can go into localhost 8000, sorry. And there you go. I'm on my app. I have a run model button, and that's it, because I haven't done anything on my server side. So now the rest of this is explaining notifications and some other stuff, but now I'm going to explain it outside of the tutorial. But still, I'm going to leave this on. Okay, so if I want to actually start doing stuff, I need to change my initialize, update, or tick functions. So I'm going to do my update one. If I want something to occur on every update, so on every input change, I could do it right here. So for example, I could here put a println, and input has changed, right? And if I do this and rerun my server, if I run this and I click, look, every time I click, it will print out an input has changed. So, okay, that's all right, that's cool, but I wanted to update only when a single input gets changed, right? So if I want that to happen only on a single input, I'm gonna have to bring in a macro from ShinyRS. So I'm going to bring here the macro called changed. So what does this macro do? It says, oh yeah, this I'm bringing from session. Sorry. Let me use ShinyRS, and let me bring here changed. And I'm going to bring args because I'm going to need it later. So apparently I'm bringing some unused. Oh yeah, and this is UI args. There you go. I'm just gonna keep it. I'm gonna bring just UI. So now I can do something like if changed. Change this a macro changed. and I'm gonna have to pass in Shiny and put in between these parentheses the inputs that I wanted to react to. So in this case, this one is called, and I think it's run model, yeah, run model. And then I have to give it the type because that's kind of like how Shiny exposes it on the message, shiny.action. And now inside this if statement, I can do whatever I want. So now here I can do println, and let me do the button has been clicked, right? So now if I run the app again, I should, there, the button has been clicked. But let me go into my UI now in my index.r and let me add another thing. Let me add a run model too, right? Or yeah, I still haven't implemented select inputs, so that's something that might be an issue here. So right now I'm going to just put in a text input. Text input, let me call it path. So the path to the image, let's say we already have our images. And let me put in here a label, image. Now let me put a placeholder, let's say /img/ Andres.jpg. Let's do that. So now let's render our, and let me run it again. And now look, we have our text input and our run model. If I write anything on the text input, look, nothing happens right here, right? Because on our main.rs, we have on our update, it only reacts to changes on run model. But if I do run model, there you go. It says it has been clicked. Perfect. All right. So let's start doing some more interesting stuff. Let's go right here. Let's create a folder where we're going to save our images. So let me mkdir static /img, for example. And let me do this with actix files and expose here to /emg /static /emg. And right here, I do want file, how do you include file browser. I forgot how file browser actix. File show file listing. That's it. Show files listing. There you go. So if I run this, okay, it's already. If I run this, I could go into /img, and it says the index of /img. There you go. And now if I just run the app, there you go. It works, right? So let's include some images into the. I'm gonna take a little like picture. Although I think I would have to disable my camera, right? Because it's in use right now. That might be an issue. Okay, let me just look up some faces. Yeah, just force quit. Okay, come on, cheese. You're making my life hard. There you go, force quit. So let's look up some faces online. Let's look up some face images. So let me download this. Let me save image as and put it on my projects, personal, shiny face app, static img. Let's call this image 1, right? The JPEG, perfect. Let's look up for, let's take this image, right? Let me save image as. Let's call it, okay, this is a WebP. This doesn't work. I need like JPEGs or maybe this one. Let me save image as. There you go. That's a JPEG. That's perfect. Image 2, for example. Let's just do that. We have 2 images now, right? So now if I reload this and go to /image, there you go. There's image 1, the JPEG, and image. There you go. Those are the images. I'm going to run my model over. Perfect. So let's continue. As I told you, I created a little module called face. And let me, I think it's run model is the function that I'm going to be using. Yep, that's correct. So let me cargo reload right here so that I get all my things working. There you go. So I have my run model. So I want to run my model when the user clicks the run model, right? But I also need a path. I need a path to the image. So let's do it. Let path equal, So how do we access the input that the user is supposed to write right there? So let's go shiny dot input, right? And here I get a couple functions. I can insert, I can get, I can do a bunch of stuff, but I'm gonna try to get string, right? I want the path to be a string, not a number, not anything. I want it to be a string. So get string, and this is gonna return. How would you call that? Oh yeah, I need to put in the input. So this would be, let me go back to my index.r. Path. It's literally path. So let's go back to our main.rs. So here would be path. Okay. There you go. So this is an option. This isn't a string per se. So I'll have to do unwrap, and I'm gonna do unwrap or default. If it doesn't exist, it's gonna be empty, right? Or maybe if it doesn't exist, maybe run it on image 1. That could be an option, but I'm gonna do unwrap or default for now. Okay, so we have our path, and now we're gonna have to run our model. So my run model function, let me go to my lib.rs, takes in a path, it runs the model, and then it saves an image that it returns, and it saves it to the results dir. I'm not gonna save it to the results dir. I'm gonna save it to static /img / whatever, right? Or maybe static /results. Let's do it like that. Static /results / the image.png. Perfect. So let's go back to our main.rs, and let's see the let result path equal run model, right? Path. And here I would have to put it as a reference because that's what it takes in. There you go. So again, this brings up I'm gonna do unwrap or, because again this is a how do you call it? It returns a string result, so it could error out, right? But I also could return path, right? And I could do this into match. So if I do it like this, I believe I could do okay. And if it's okay, I want it to return the result path, right? Result path. But if it errors out, I think it takes in message, I believe. Cannot find poly result path. Yes, of course, because this doesn't exist yet, right? Okay, now let's do it with unwrap or default for now, and then we'll look into error handling. Hey Eric, how are you? So I'm building a little app to make some face detection. I think it will be pretty simple. I think I'm building right now my server logic. So I wanted the user to put in the path to the image on the server, and it will return the image with the little squares around it so that it could detect it. So right now I'm just doing whenever the user clicks the input shiny the action button run model, it's going to take in the path that the user puts in the input. It's going to run the model, and it's going to return the path to the resulting image. Okay, so there you go. I have my results path, and now what I want to do is I'm going to bring in, since I have UI. Okay, I have UI imported, so I'm going to do something UI. Render UI, right? Render UI. So render UI takes two things. Takes in a session. So I'm going to pass in the session. And after passing in the session, I need to pass in an HTML string. That's kind of like pretty standard to how render UI works. So in here, I'm going to do format so that I can format it. I'm going to do image source equals. And here I'm going to put in and let me actually put it as in, how do you call that? A raw string. Let's do it like that. So source, I'm gonna put in here the little curly bracket so that I can put in the image path, and that should be it. Really, that's actually like I think everything that HTML needs, right? And then I'm gonna pass in as an argument the result path, right? So I'm getting an error. I'm gonna put this on full screen so that I can provide the argument. str. Maybe oh yeah, I forgot to close the parentheses. And I'm gonna pass this as a reference. Provided argument. I think that's. Oh yeah, I need to pass in an output ID, right? So the output ID. I forgot about it. I'm gonna go to my index.r, right? My output is result, so this would go on result, right? That's my output ID. And it's gonna tell me it's gonna mismatch types because it found a string, but I'm gonna just reference this. There you go. It should now render my thing. So let's try it out. I think that should be it. Let me cargo run release because I want to optimize it so that it runs as fast as it can. And in theory, this should work. There should be no problem with it. Although I forgot to expose the results, right? So I'm taking in static img, right? But my model returns the image to static results. So I would have to put in the result path to add those resources so that it can render it. So let me just put here results and static results. There you go. And I don't want to show file listing because I don't want users snipping into the files. Let me recompile it. And perhaps now it should work. Let me see if it actually works. So it's compiling. Should all be working. I don't think there's any errors. There you go. So now if I put here img/img1.jpg, let me run the model. Let's see if this actually works. So this should be running. I don't know if it's still running. I should probably add like some way to tell that. Let me go into my system monitor. Okay, I think it stopped running. So it's not working quite yet. And that's probably because of those unwrap or defaults, right? So I'm gonna add some prints. I'm gonna print ln just so that I can kind of like debug. So let me print ln my path. So let me put here path. And let me put here my result path. That's just, I just want to like test out if it's actually, if it's not erroring out, right? So let me put here img/img1.jpg, run model. Okay, so it's taking in the image/image1.jpg, but it's not taking in, it's not resulting in anything. So the model's failing somehow. So that's what I want to test now. Is if I do /img, here is img1.jpg, right? This is the image I took from Google. And this should be the path. It should, in theory, work. But it's not returning anything. So let's take a look at the code. What could I have done wrong? Maybe it's because I'm taking the model, but the model I think is all right. And the path, right, because the path is not img, right? It's static, right? So that's one thing I need to do. So in here, in this path, I'm gonna make it as a mutable. I'm just gonna format it directly. So I would have to put in static / and then the path. So that now should work, right? Because the files are actually in /static /img / and that's the actual path. So let me run it again. Have you tried this model in basic Rust without a... Yes, I have tried it in basic Rust. So now img/image1.jpg. Let's see if it all works. Yeah, so now it's not printing anything. Because right here, the only thing I'm doing here is formatting it, right? Oh, and okay, yeah, so that's kind of weird. I'm guessing it's probably this unwrap that I'm putting in. Because I just have never tried putting it over like through a front end, but I guess it should in theory work. So we could see where it's failing. Let me see static results. Or maybe it's because I haven't created the results folder. mkdir static results. Maybe it's failing because of that. So I'm running the release flag, which means I'm just making it as like a release. So I'm giving up some of the debugging capabilities. So let me run this model. Okay, there you go. Now it's actually resulting in an image. And that image is being seen static results and this thing, right? For some reason, it's not rendering, right? So if I open this in a new tab, it's not working. Why could that be? Perhaps I'm making an error in, so / results. Yeah, so I'm putting in, it's returning this static part, right? It returns static / blah, blah, blah. So I could modify the function that builds this, right? So I could have like a let path relative. Let's do it and just do this format, right? Let's equal it to this. My mouse is kind of like, so here I'm not going to put in the static part. I'm just going to put in / results. And in this one, I'm just going to paste in the relative path. So path relative, that should work. And now I'm just going to return the path relative instead of the full path, because I don't really care about the full path. The full path is for the file system. It's not really for me. So let's try it now. Let's run this. Let's put in image / image1, the JPEG, run the model. And now it's maybe failing, maybe not, because it's not printing anything. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Okay, so I'm putting here / results / whatever that PNG, and then I'm pasting it, right? And oh yeah, I'm stupid. So I want it on the safe path, but I want it to return the relative path. That's it. Sorry, my bad. There you go. Now, again, sorry for repeating myself. Now it should work. So image1.jpg. JPEG. There you go. So now it has this big red border. So let's try it with image2. There you go. It's making face detection. Works. As easy as that. So we could just procedurally add images to the image folder and it should work. I could also, in order to make it easier for the user, like I still haven't implemented select inputs. I've implemented numeric inputs and text inputs and action buttons, but I haven't implemented select inputs. So I don't have a way for like just list files, let the user select the file. I don't have that developed yet. I'm working on developing that. But this kind of works. So let's download. Let's look up. Let's look up a crowd. Let's just take a random image of crowd. Let's take this image. Let's save it, and I'm gonna save it as crowd.jpg. Yeah, sure. Crowd. I can't type crowd. There you go. Crowd.jpg. And now let's just run /crowd.jpg. Run the model. Maybe it's because it's a JPEG. Maybe it's because it should be on /img crowd.jpg, right? This is the image. There you go. I typed it wrong. Detects the faces. Of course, it's not detecting everything. I'm taking a basic model like I found that's an example model. It's not like an actually well-trained. I don't know if it's well-trained. I just took the model to kind of show the demonstration. But imagine the things that you could do with this. So imagine you have like a Raspberry Pi, right? Since Rust is so memory efficient, I'm actually going to take in here the system monitor. Let's look shiny. So let's take in. So this is the process, right? On my computer. It's taking up a total of like 5.3 megabytes. Of course, the virtual memory is higher. There's other processes that make this work, but you could run this on a Raspberry Pi. So imagine you have like a little Raspberry Pi and you're at a concert or whatever, and you want to count how many faces it can detect, or any other image detection model. You could run a Shiny app and kind of have like that UI, that front end running off the same device, because it's just R is not that efficient in terms of memory, and it's not meant to be that efficient in terms of memory. It's meant to be an interactive language that you can test things out in. But if you want to take your app into a very constrained environment or into a performance-sensitive environment, this works really well. So let's take in another image. Let's take this image, right? With that 6,000 pixels. I'm not sure if I want to run it over such a big image, but I mean, I'm running it with the release tag, right? So it shouldn't be a problem. Yep. So let's try it out. Let's save this image. Let's make this test.jpg just to make it easy. Let's change to test.jpg, run the model. Okay, it only detected one face. It's not the best model. Maybe I didn't save it correctly. Who knows? I mean, I can see some faces really clearly, but it's a concept. It works. The other benefits of using Rust is it's hard to crash a Rust server if you do things correctly. So I'm not doing things correctly right here. I'm using this unwraps or default, which basically it means if there's an error, ignore it, right? And that's not the best thing to do, but what it does is that I won't crash this, right? I can run this model over and over. It's not going to crash it. I can put in an empty thing. I can put whatever things, and it won't probably crash my app. Rust is really safe. I think that's kind of like the selling point. So if you look up like why use Rust, it's going to say, oh, because it's memory safe. That's kind of like what it means. You have a lot of control. So I could like put this into, instead of an unwrap, I could put this like just return it like that. And now I could use this result path. Let's call this, let's just call it result path, right? And let's call this potentially the error. Like, I don't think this is the best way to do it, but let's just do it. So now let's do let result path equal match, and I'm going to match the result path error. And here I can write OK. And so this OK, it contains the success, right? If it's successful, it returns the success, right? I'm going to put in here result. I think I can put in here anything. So this is the type. So I wanted to return the path. So result path error. I think that's how you would do it. And here in error, I think you put here, I'm not sure if this is how you would do it, but let's try it out. So now here I would have to put this. So this found to be result of type. So I think maybe I would have to pass in OK like this, but no, that wouldn't be. So I would have to like unwrap this and like do some better error handling, which is kind of like it's a weird thing about Rust, and it's actually like a little bit sometimes hard to comprehend. But I mean that's kind of like how things are. So if I do result match Rust, there you go. Recover all errors. So I would have to match. Where's the match? Match. Yeah, so here. So here I would do the match. Let's actually do it, the match correctly. So let me put this right here. So let's actually do some, see if Rust becomes more popular for statistics. Yeah, so right now there's some solid libraries. Plotly is really good with Rust. It can get better, should get better. But for the really sensitive things, I think taking the time to port your models or the things to Rust can be really helpful. I think that's kind of like the main benefit. So let's actually do, so here I would have, so this would have to be OK. And here it says this is found to be result, standard. Okay, there you go. This found to be of type result. Yup, but I would need to contains the file, right? So here it would be string, it would take in. There you go. And for error, so for error it takes the error. So here it would be, I think, standard error. I think that's how you would do it. And here I can run an expression, right? Incompatible types, expected enum result, found type. Yeah, right, because I'm not returning anything. So if there's an error, I mean, I could put in panic, right? But I don't really want to panic. So let's do an error with, let's just not return anything, right? Found unit type. Expected enum, result type, standard error. So let me return again a string. And let me put in here string from let me put in here this. So I don't know why there, because I don't want to panic. I want it basically to, so I mean I could pass here a message, but that's not how incompatible expected. Yeah. So that's one thing, like I'm still getting used to it, but that's not the point of this. The point of this video was to show you I created a Shiny app that can take an image, so image one, right, that JPEG, and it can run a model and it can show back the results really quickly. So I can run this like many times and it works fine. It's multi-threaded. I can pass in like to make it use multiple threads, whatever works. That's basically the point of this video. I can work on making the error handling much better later on. Yeah, so error this, right? And then I can return, because I wanted to run incompatible types. Yeah, so that's the thing that I don't. Can I make it return a string? No. It says expected enum result. Yeah, but it found a struct string. Yeah, that's kind of like that weird part, because I can return here is result path error. But then here it wouldn't work on wrap or default, because then it would return a string. So now it's incompatible. That's just kind of like the weird part. But yeah, this works. So again, this would be used if this was a function that actually brought in this, which I mean, I could make it into that. Let's do that. So let's take all of this into a different function. Let's take this into a different function. Let's create a function right here called model module. Let's call it like that, model module. And there's going to be a function that takes in, let's take in Shiny. And let's take in a session, right? So session like this. And it's going to return a result. And it's going to be either a string or a dynamic. So let's do box, dynamic, standard, error. Let's do it like that, right? So it's going to tell me it returns that, but we're going to fix that. So now right here, I wanted to return error, result error. No, so here I wanted to return result path error if it errors out. And if not, I wanted to return my result path. So, okay, result path. Right. Arguments to this enum variant are incorrect. Why? So now here I would have to put in result path, let result path equal to whatever I'm going to do. So my model modules, and let me pass in my Shiny server and my Shiny session like that. So expected value found alias. Oh yeah, right here it's shiny and session, right? So shiny and session, right? There you go. Passed it on. So here I would do an unwrap or default because I want it to be an empty string if it doesn't work. And now in my error handling, I can actually do some cool stuff. So for example, let's show a notification to the user when it errors out. So let's do UI show notification. I would have to pass in a session, and I would have to pass in some UI args. So what are UI args? They're the arguments to the UI function. So let's do this. And in args, I think I would have to pass HTML. So the image does not exist. There you go. The type would be of type error. And finally, what would be next? Maybe close button, I think. And close button, I want it to be false. I don't want it to have. Oh yeah, and I also need to pass on an ID. But I think if I leave my ID empty, it's still gonna work. See if Ross becomes more yeah. So let's see right here. Arguments to this enum are incorrect. So in here, let's just return the actual error like this. No, but it moves right there, right? So I would need indeed to pass on these arguments to this enum variant are incorrect. Okay, yeah, because this is not an option. I mean, I want to do this error handling right here, but I don't know what would be the appropriate thing to do right there because I'm not really passing on an error. Because I'm trying to put in match result path, right? So this result path would have to be, this has to return a string. Pass in default, right? Try wrapping the expression in OK. Yeah, that's the thing though. I want to handle the error right there. So let me return a string. Use ... to ignore all fields. ... Expected string. Mismatch type. So yeah, this is again. So here I do want to return the result path error. And that's now it should work properly. Borrow this field in the pattern. Yeah, that's not what I want. I want to borrow this field. Okay, like this. There you go. I think that works now. Yeah. So now, if I do this, run my app, if the user puts in an image that doesn't exist, sorry, so if I put img/undress.jpg, image doesn't exist, right? And it shows the image doesn't exist. But if I pass on crowd.jpg, now it runs the model. Perfect. Works. So I think now it's detecting more faces, I think. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's it. Next step, I could try to put it into a Raspberry Pi and have the Raspberry Pi take images and constantly update it. That would be a cool small project. I could even simplify this into making the input don't have to worry about. So if I put here image, now I shouldn't have to put img/ because all of them are going to be on img. So now I should just be able to pass in crowd.jpg. There you go, works. And now I can add on my UI, for example, my static. Let me go into my index.r. I could add here tags a and tags bold, for example. See the available available images, and I could href this into /img so that the user is able to take a look at the images. Let me render my thing, run it again. Now if the user clicks here, it should show them the image, right? This goes on the same line. I don't really like that. Let me put in here a tags break line. Run this again. This is not the best looking app there is out there, but okay, let's just wrap this inside a div. That's the easy solution. And I have to render again. So our script, there you go. Is there a plumber equivalent in Rust? So, yes, but that's pretty much built into Actix Web. So I'm using Actix, which is the web framework that I chose to make this. So you can write directly APIs in here. So for example, here I can get, so this is like the example shown on the website. I think that's good enough. So I can have like here, get hello / like argument name, and I can run whatever I want for this, right? And if you look at here in my main.rs, that's pretty much what I'm doing. So I'm exposing different endpoints. What I could do, for example, is I could host 2 apps, 2 Shiny servers, 2 Shiny UIs, and a RESTful API all on the same server. That's something I could do. And I could use the same functions and the same logic without having to go separately and build an API and a Shiny app, because they're all built on a single web framework. So that's kind of like the cool thing. So for example, this model modules function that I built, I could literally just create, I'm going to literally just copy paste this, right? So I could do this in here like this. Also, I would need to add here the get method. Right. So now here, get hello. So now I could put in here like model / name, for example, to apply the model, or I could take in like query parameters. I could parse a string or whatever. And here, for example, I could run my model. For example, let's model modules, and this returns. So in here, this wouldn't work because I'm taking Shiny and a Shiny session and a RESTful API that doesn't really exist. But let's just do here a really basic example of like let's just do the default like hello name, right? And I think here I would have to route it, right? So here in this HTTP server, I can add the line route, in this case hello, but I'm gonna put there to model, for example, /model get async hello. Well, yeah, so let's just run this. So now I can go on my local host. I can have my Shiny app on /, right? And I can have a /model /hello. And for some reason it's not working, but it should have worked. Maybe it's because I put in /model / no, that's definitely not it. But that's kind of like the gist of it. I'm probably, oh yeah, this is a get method, right? And I don't think, okay, yeah, that should have worked, but for some reason it okay, yeah, if I just do /model, it says hello, but here I should be able to put in / something else, and then it should have printed it out. For some reason it didn't, but it should have. Maybe it's because here I'm not passing on the function. So here I'm doing the get. So here how I'm doing it here is web resource, WebSocket. So here I'm passing in this. So maybe here I would have to pass on the actual function that I want to pass on. But that's kind of like the gist of it, of how it works. You could integrate with this containers. Of course you could. And the cool thing is that all of this, so I'm just going to delete this API part. The cool thing is all of this, I can do cargo, build, release. And all of the logic for my app any API, anything I got will be all inside this single file. Target, release, and here shiny face app. So this is an executable, this file. So I can literally, if you run a Linux, I would have to, like, if I'm gonna do it for Windows, I would have to build it for Windows or for Mac or for ARM. If I'm gonna run on a Raspberry Pi or on WebAssembly, I could compile it to WebAssembly. But this is literally just a binary, and I can run the binary, and I have my app, right? So it makes it really portable, much more portable than R, where you would have to download a bunch of packages, probably use renv, probably make a container, right, a Docker container in order to deploy it. Here it's a much easier, how do you call this? It's a much easier process to actually take your app into production. So here, test the JPEGs. Now I can just put in here test.jpg, for example, run model, and it doesn't exist. JPEG, run model, there you go. Let me go on my index, and let me change the placeholder to something like undress.jpg. So I'm gonna take a selfie. I'm gonna have to disable the camera on my stream, unfortunately. So how would I can't just hide it, right? That's not enough. Okay, maybe this. Let me open up cheese. I want cheese. There you go. I don't want it. I think it's gonna crash again because I don't have a camera. Let me just remove it from OBS. And let me open up cheese again. Yeah, there you go. So I'm gonna take a picture, right? I'm gonna pass this picture onto my files. Let me open files. Let me shiny face app. Okay, it didn't find the, let me go into projects. There you go. My personal, shiny face app, static image. Put this image right here. Let's rename this to undress.jpg. And now, well, let me cargo run release. Let me run it. I can put in undress.jpg. And there you go. Look, it detected my face. No problem. Yeah, so I think this is enough for the demonstration. I think I got my point across. I'm gonna R script. Let me export this thing, and I'm gonna make this all into a get add dot get commit get add dot get status. Okay, it's taking a while to add all the files. Maybe it's because of the images. So I'm gonna remove static image. Let me remove the big one. I think it's test.jpg. Get add dot. Okay, it's still taking a while to add. Get status dot get ignore works. Get add cargo dot the cargo thing. Get add face. Yeah, that's probably because it's a Git submodule, but still added it. But here it adds all the release things from the. Okay, so let me get restore staged face. Get status, get restore staged dot. Couldn't resolve head, of course, because I don't have get status. cd into face. This is also a Git repository, so let me get in it. Get status, cd.dd, get status. I can't resolve my head. How do I do this? Someone help. Okay, let me just go into phase rm-rf target release. Get status, get odd dot, get commit. Let's let me nvim.getIgnore. Let me cp the .getIgnore from above to here. Get status. Get restore stage dot. Let me. Why would? That's really weird. Get status. Let me go back here. Let me also remove rm git. There you go. Now I can do git init. Let me go into face. Let me do another git init here. Git status. Git add dot. Let me commit right here. Commit. Set this to initial commit. That's pretty much it. Commit it. Git status. There you go. cd git add dot. Git status. There you go. At least it's now committing the static things for Shiny. So git add dot, git commit. Let me put here also initial commit. So let me do git status, and let me create a GitHub repository so that you guys can have access to all the code. Let me here create a new repository, add new repository, Shiny RS face app, let's call it, make it public, create repository, SSH, copy, git remote add, origin, paste this in, git push, set upstream origin master. I've had a few battles with git this month. Yeah, it happens all the time. But what can you do about it? It still works. Yeah, so here face, it points to nothing because I haven't. So let's just go into, let's not make this a git repository. Less rm minus rf.git. Yeah, so here git status, because it added it as a git, so cd face less.git. Yeah, but it's not, it's no longer a git add face minus f git status. It wouldn't be rm minus rf face git status git restore dot git status git restore dot. It still takes it. Okay, I really don't have enough patience to do this. It's Friday. Just want to get over with it. But it works. Oh, now look, now face is empty. Okay, so that's a bummer. I would have to rewrite all the code for that. Oh, that's so. Why would? Okay. I really don't care. I just wanted to get the demonstration across that it works. Again, I could rewrite that code very quickly. I'm gonna leave in the description the repository again. The how do you call that? The code for the model is now no longer here with us. I accidentally deleted it without knowing. Happens to the best of us, and I didn't push it to any repository, so it's done. It's over with. But doesn't matter. That's kind of like the working thing. I still have the release, the Shiny Face app. So what I could do is put this on a server somewhere to kind of like show the functionality. Or I could just do cargo /target release app. And there you go. I have my app. What I could do to make it easier for you guys is git add target so target /release /shiny face app.f. To force it, git now I can do git commit adds binary. All right, so now anyone with a Linux machine should be able to run this. Okay, so if you want to run it, you can do clone the repository and do targets /targets/release /shiny face app, and you should be able to run the app on your computer while I fix the code so that you guys can actually work with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to show like a test scenario, test.jpg, run the model, doesn't work, undress the JPEG, run the model, there you go, detect my face. If you want to download the app, the binary is right there on the Git repository. You can take any image and run the model through it. So let's just let's look. Let me look for another people images. Let's take this one. Has a bunch of faces, right? So let's call this people.jpg. people.jpg, right? Let me run the app. I don't have to restart it. I closed it because I'm dumb. People.jpg, run the model. It's probably gonna take a second because there's a bunch of people, right? I can hear my computer ramping up. Let's see if it. There you go. So look, there's squares all over the faces, right? And I think these faces are easy to define because they're really clearly faces. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You can run it on your computer if you want. And this is a Shiny app again. It's working with Shiny. I really could translate most of the architecture one-to-one. So that's really cool stuff. So yep, leaving right now. That's all I wanted to show you. I think it's pretty cool. You can take a look at the repositories. I have a better example for the Shiny app. If you go to experiment.indexmake.com, this is an example app I made. In this app, I can I just make some random distributions. So this is showing how the inputs could work, right? Oh, look, this is Shiny inputs, right? If I can insert UI, so I kind of showing, okay, you can insert UI, you can remove UI, update inputs, right? So I can put in here and it updates the label of another one. So this is showing update text input. And I create a little markdown editor to kind of show how we can integrate other stuff. So I could put in here, hello world as a title, put here unordered list, and I can put in here heading 2, right? And it's a markdown editor. It's pretty trivial stuff. Built on Rust, built with Shiny. I think that's really cool. I sure hope we can discuss a lot, Eric. That would be pretty cool. So yep, that's it for the stream. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fun night. Have a fun Friday and a fun weekend. See you.